All right. Good morning. Oh, my nose is kind of red. I just had to pull my nose back. So, good morning. I know it's been a while since I've done one of these. Life has been a lot, to say the least. So, yeah, just been a lot going on. Hair looks fuzzy. Uh, but here we are. So this is episode 7. Can't believe I've done 6 of these. This one This one's pretty cool. It's got a lot of things in it. So I don't like I'm recording it before even I just titled it 7 because I don't even know like what the main so we'll see how we feel where spirit leads us. And yeah, I was like, I don't know what to call this. It's got a lot in it. So anyway, I will say it does have a lot to do with like addictions and things like that. So that might be sort of a title, but who cares? It will have already been named by the time you're watching this. Um So anyway, so the other morning when I was sitting with Spirit, I was having sort of a fantasy, which this is how Spirit with me, it happens a lot this way, is I was sort of fantasizing about having a conversation with my dad. And dad asked, again, this is dad would not ask this. So, so if you're watching, don't think I'm making people think that you would ask this stuff. Again, fantasy. And anyway, so my dad had asked, we were having lunch or whatever, which that's not a fantasy. We did go to lunch. And he asked like about addiction, like how I view in a spiritual way, how I view like alcoholics or drug addicts or that situation. Again, he wouldn't ask me that. And then when I was answering him in my fantasy or imagination, I realized I didn't know the information that I was this and then again, this is how spirit talks to me a lot, is it'll be some sort of conversational fantasy, that I'm having, and then I realize what I'm teaching the person in the fantasy, I'm learning as I'm seeing the fantasy, right? I'm like, "Whoa, that's heavy. That was brilliant, Kimber, in there in the fantasy. That was brilliant." But it's like spirit's telling me stuff, right? And so for me, it happens a lot in that way. I have a movie screen where I get shown movies or like that but again, that's a movie. It's like I'm watching a conversation. Like that's how I get told stuff. Anyway, so dad asked about addicts and stuff like that and how do I feel about it and therefore spirit. So here's what I was shown. Um Spirit says, and this is gonna blow your mind because it blew mine. That's why I've had a few days to process it before I'm doing this recording. So spirit says there's no such thing as an alcoholic or a drug addict. I'm like, like I'm sure there is. I've met them. I've met, yeah, sure. But what spirit says is that's just labels that we made up. Language, we made up language that we have to hear things out loud. Like we made that shit up as humans. Spirit doesn't need language, and we all get so hung up on language too, like spirit versus universe versus God versus Jesus. Like we get hung up. Like if you don't say Jesus, it's of the devil because you're saying spirit when it's a fucking word, dude. And guess what? Jesus didn't speak English, so why are you getting so hung up on some English shit? Like shut up. Yeah, like what? Anyway, that was a soapbox moment. I'm back. That was all. It's all the same shit moment. But anyway, so spirit says we made up these labels like this person drinks, in our opinion, too much, therefore they are an alcoholic. This person shoots up heroin. I would imagine we all agree any amount is too much. So I'm not even going to do that for the heroin. So they're a heroin addict, they're a drug addict. And spirit saying that's all a bunch of bullshit. Um, we've come as far, we have evolved to where we'll use terms like self-medicating. They're self-medicating. And that's this evolved term, and it's true. But why aren't we asking, what are they medicating? What is it they're medicating? Like, we need to take it a step further. So it's not about the alcohol, the heroin, the food, the sugar, uh, working out. People overdo that, go to the gym 15 times a fucking week. And well, like whatever the addiction or the medication isn't the problem. It's what they're medicating that's the problem. So, which is largely why, like, thank you. For example, let's say Kimber drinks way too much, and she's mean when she drinks. She's got a problem. And there was a time in my life I would say that that was true for sure. But anyway, so some people would have labeled Kimber's an alcoholic, right? Like some people would jump to that and just start calling it that. And that's okay. But they'll say Kimber stopped drinking. And then all of a sudden, Kimber's in the gym, 15 times a week, and she's and back into Muay Thai. And I've joined a fitness contest. So I've even hired a trainer and a nutritionist, and I'm living on grilled chicken with no fucking seasoning at all, like that's the life, and boiled eggs, so I stink when I fart. Like what? But I'm at the gym and man, I look great. I'm shredded. Fuck yeah. And most people would say, look how great Kimber's doing. Like she kicked that alcohol habit. Look at her skin. She looks great. Like she's going to the gym all the time. She's eating 55 grilled chickens a week, like whatever, twigs and berries. She's just digging that shit. All I did was switch medications. My dad once said to me, and the spirit says when you hear something that rings true, you remember it. Like it hits you different. Like boom, that's heavy. Even if the person delivering it doesn't realize on how deep level what they're saying is so true, they don't even get how true it is that's saying it. It'll hit. And Dad said, it's never about it's no, this is normal situations. People be like, oh, so he says it's not about what you do. It's all about the motive. It's all about the motive. Now, he was saying it in a way like, because I was learning how to put on mascara and eyeliner. And his point was, it's not about wearing the makeup, it's what you're trying to accomplish when wearing the makeup. So it was a very shallow subject. But again, I was 13, right? So not a whole lot of deep shit going on. So it was about like, so are you trying to, attract boys and cause them to, sin, which is a sin. So his was a little bit, but the motive thing, it stuck. So if I'm working out to run from my problems or to fit into a mold that the world has told me I need to fit into, or because I quit alcohol and I need something else to busy my mind and I need a way to wear myself the fuck out because I can't drink myself to sleep tonight, if that's why I'm doing it, then it's still just self-medicating. If I start going to the gym now because I want to become more in tune with my body and I notice that I'm losing muscle mass because I'm in my 50s and I want to build muscle mass to protect my brittle bones and I just want to be healthier, that's not self-medicating. See? But yet it looks the same at the gym, right? Like, so we're so busy worried about you drink too much, you eat too much, go to a fat camp, go to a rehab, AA, and you do heroin, so you need to go to a rehab. If in all those things, if we're not getting to the unhealed trauma that we're medicating, you're just going to either go back to the same medication or switch medications, right? It's going to come out in another way. Go to church. Here's another one. Friend invites you to church, you quit, Kimber quit doing alcohol. She accepts the invitation to church from her friend. She's sitting in that pew, and that freaking sermon sounds like it was handwritten for me. Been there. I've been in many services that are like that. You start feeling the spirit, singing some worship songs, and it's your favorite ones, right? That day, it's your favorite ones. And the worship leader's feeling it, you're feeling it, spirit's moving, and that's real. And you're high on it, right? And so then the altar call happens. And you feel led to go down, and they keep saying, put it at Jesus's feet. Come lay all your burdens at the altar. We float down to that altar. Well, actually, going down to the altar, you feel kind of heavy still because you're like, yeah, this shit. But you're feeling that love. People sometimes gather around you, lay hands on you, or hands towards you, both. And you feel it. Like you feel that love. And it is overwhelming as fuck. Like it feels amazing because spirit is amazing. And spirit's love is amazing. And then, it comes to a close and we're all dehydrated now, because we've cried, snotted, tissues got passed around. We're fucking feeling that shit. And we're all floating. You float back to your seat, your pew. And then you float home, and you're high off of that. And you start going to church every time the doors open because you need that high. You need that high. You need that high. And then you find yourself, time goes by. There's a honeymoon phase in everything in life. That's great. There's a honeymoon phase. And then we're still just like drugs, just like we're chasing that first high. And sometimes I will say with spirit, even within the church, that first high comes back. Like spirit can renew that shit. Like it's not like heroin where you're just chasing that for crack or what. So I hear that you're just chasing that first buzz and it teases you. You just get enough to tease you, but it's never that first thing. No, spirit will deliver that shit. And so you keep coming back and you keep coming back and you keep coming back. And you keep, so-called laying it at Jesus's feet, laying it at Jesus' feet, then you find yourself on that business trip or vacation or whatever, where you're not able to get to the church every day or every other day to get that high. And sometimes those old medications creep back in. We belly up to that bar, because and get that kind of spirits. We've been getting that spirits at church, but now we're getting spirits at the bar. There's a reason why it's called that. And so the cycle's right. And then due to that doctrine, though, then there's the shame because that's called backsliding. We have this backslid word. We got to label shit, and attach emotion to everything. So we backslid. So that's shame. And then that replays that whole, we're wretched, horrible human beings without Jesus, so we're terrible, terrible. And that proved it, right? Because we weren't in church this week because we were in, Florida or wherever the hell you go. And you backslid. And it just proves again, without Jesus, we are horrible, horrible beings. No, all it proved is your shit ain't healed. That's what it proved. It proved that you switched medications. You went from the alcohol, the drug, whatever the fuck, and you went to church and you didn't heal the stuff. So church you're now using as the medication. And then you weren't able to get to church for that week or that 2 weeks or whatever the fuck it was. And you bellied up to that bar and had to get some medication. You had to get your prescription filled. So you're white knuckling religion or white knuckling the gym. You're white knuckling alcohol. You get my point. But here's the thing. The lie that the church tells you isn't bring it and lay it at Jesus's feet. That isn't the lie part. That's true. That's true. You bring your shit and you lay it at Spirit's feet. And yes, Spirit can heal that shit. That's not the lie. The lie is what that looks like. It doesn't look like going to church every time the damn door's open and trying to live from one high to the next. That's not what it looks like. That's great. I'm not saying don't do that. That shit's if that shit blows your skirt up, go do it. It's real. The spirit part of that is real. It's the interpretation of a lot of the stuff in that book that's fucked up. The spirit part of that in the church, the tears cried and the feelings and the getting overwhelmed, that shit is real and it's spirit and it's the same spirit I'm out here dealing with. Same shit. All the same shit. I just don't put limitations on spirit. Spirit can speak to me in any way it wants to. It doesn't have to do it in this one way, but that's still fine. So go. But that's not what leaving it at Jesus's feet or Spirit's feet looks like. What it looks like is there's a lot of homework. There's a lot of homework. A lot of homework. And before I move on, I'm going to just check and make sure I haven't missed anything in that arena before I move on to what that homework looks like. Okay. Right. No trauma is actually healed at the altar. Spirit made that very clear. Like, there's a lot of healing as far as you're now being introduced to the love and the warmth of that light. And that now you know it exists and that you have access to it. That's what the altar's for, is to introduce you to the access to healing, to the access of spirit, which is an overwhelming and loving experience. But that is what it is, and that is all it is. That's it. But that is amazing. It's a lot. But that's it. And that's good news, because for those that keep laying that shit at that altar, you keep bringing it down there and you're wondering why next week you're still mouth-watering, needing whatever that is that medicates you. And you're like, what the fuck, man? What the fuck? It's not you. You're not doing anything wrong. You just haven't been told how to do it yet. You keep being told that it's just keep bringing it to the church. That's not it. Keep going to church. That's great. Right. Great. But if you really want to heal that trauma to where if all the churches in the world burned to the ground today and we didn't have church and you had to survive without church for, say, a year, that you would be fucking still fine and supercharged to plug into spirit and super healed where none of those medications appeal to you anymore. If you want that kind of peace, that's done at home. That's done by yourself. That's done alone with spirit. When dogs are coming to visit. Oh, wow. We covered a lot. Okay. We got it. We're doing good. All right. So I thought that was going to be it. Like, those revelations, like, because that's a lot. That's big and good news. But then Spirit's like, yeah, but you just did like what the churches do. That's so irritating. It's like, you just said, leave it at Spirit's feet. And it doesn't look like it's not at the altar. It's at home. And then you're going to shut it down. And everybody's like, okay, could someone please tell us what it does fucking look like so we can do it? Yes. So it comes up so much in readings and conversations with my friends and stuff like that when we're talking about spirity stuff, and where it's spirit constantly saying, meditate more, sit quiet with spirit more. And the most common, of course, problem is people can't clear their mind. Like you sit down and it's like, the dishes need to be done. The fight with my spouse happened this morning. Whatever it is, clutter, work. I've got to get this proposal written. My kids got a shitty diaper on, whatever. And it's rough and people get, you give up. plug back in your audiobook, or you open your book, or you turn the TV on, or you pick up your phone and scroll Facebook because it's like, fuck, I cannot get it to shut up. I just can't get it to shut up. Or you pick up your wine bottle or your joint, or I can't get it to shut up. And what Spirit says is don't try to. Stop trying to. I've recently learned this one too. Stop trying to. That's number one. And when you have a clutter brain, stop looking at it as a meditation failure or prayer failure. That's number two. Because what Spirit's telling me is as life happens, so you have a bunch of old shit we got to heal, but then we also have daily shit happening. That it's feeling, we have to process all that with Spirit. Sorry that I skip around, but Spirit assures me that you're able to keep up with what I'm saying, even though I'm not saying it, the whole sentence. That we have to process not only old trauma, daily trauma, everything. And so when we sit down, and it's been, when we're starting out, we've got a lot of backup, right? We've just are starting this process of sitting quiet with Spirit. We're just now starting. We're babies. So there's a whole lifetime of shit. So what Spirit's saying is we have to sift through the clutter. So that's okay. Don't run from it. Like that's the problem why people keep thinking they're failing at this sitting with Spirit, because we're running from it, because it's not this automatic or within 5 minutes, I'm turning into I'm now levitating and I'm a guru and sitting under a Bodhi tree. So I failed. Fuck all that shit, right? Like nobody's doing that. Nobody's doing that. Nobody's doing that. Even that girl at the yoga class that's teaching that class, and she talks like this, and she comes over and puts lavender. When she sits down and tries to be quiet, she has a clutter fucking brain too. She ain't going into some automatic bullshit. Like we need to quit trying to separate like this woo-woo thing, like the preacher, he goes home and he just is right. No, the fuck he isn't. No, he isn't. Or she. No, they're not. We're all human and we all have a clutter brain. And we all have to sift through it. And so until we're ready to sit down, so when it's uncomfortable, just sit. And the way Spirit showed me the easiest way that's kind of universal, to tell people to start out, because everybody has their own thing that you'll resonate with, but everybody has access to a flame. Like I meditate a lot, staring out a window, staring at my bird feeders, things like that. Some people's window is staring at a brick wall of another building. Not real relaxing to some. But everybody can get access to a candle, to a flame. And so if you just sit with that candle, that flame, shut down everything else. I'll allow you soundscapes that doesn't have a melody, like a humming soundscapey sound. If you need it to soften the silence, because I do that some. But just a single flame. And your only goal is to sit there and let that flame dance for you. Like, I'm not telling you to think about what your burdens are. I'm not telling you to dig up what they are. I'm not telling you the most traumatic thing as a child to bring it up and think about it and make yourself cry over it. None of that. None of that. Just sit and stare at that flame. Let all the clutter things come in. Your mother-in-law's on your nerves. Kids are driving you nuts, but you're supposed to love them, but you don't today, and you feel bad. Like whatever. All the human shit. Just let it come on in. But watch that thing dance. Like sometimes the flame, it'll look like a conductor. And then sometimes it looks like it's a lady butt bouncing around. Like it's funny. And then even like wonder where's the breeze coming from? Where's that? So that it gives you a little something to focus on, so that you don't focus on the cluttery thoughts that are coming and going. Because when you're just trying to like free fall it, right? Then you're hyper focused on, why am I thinking about my mother-in-law that she said that about my house being messy yesterday? And why am I thinking about my kid just said she hates me because I didn't let her eat jelly beans for dinner? And that comes, but you're really looking at that flame I got going over there and how it's bouncing, and I have no idea what's making it bounce. Right? And it softens it. It softens the clutter. And then just keep letting it do that. Keep letting it do that. Just like just like we have to take time to shower, we have to take time to cleanse our soul. And that's what this is. Right? And we make intentional efforts to shower because we want our spouses to want to have sex with us at some point or sleep next to us. Well, the scripture, cleanliness is next to godliness. They didn't mean your armpits. We say these words but in churches and stuff, but we don't know what they really mean. Cleanliness means your soul, and that doesn't mean like, am I sinning or not? Am I drinking that alcohol or not? Am I cussing or not? Am I am I cheating or that's not what it means. It's not what it means. Not what it means. It means if you sat with spirit and let spirit cleanse your soul. Sit with that flame. And what eventually starts happening, if you have the patience and you allow it, is at some point you catch up with the processing of the clutter of life. You catch up. Your mother-in-law walked in 5 times in this thought process, and eventually she walks out for the last time. The laundry came in 3 times, and eventually it walks out for the last time. And that's when shit gets real. That's when spirit brings in the visions and the different perspectives of traumas that have happened, different ways to see it, so that you can heal it. Then you're no longer triggered with that trauma. And then next time you sit with the flame, spirit, go through the clutter again. Watch that flame dance. And then the laundry only entered 2 times this time, and then it exited. Mother-in-law didn't even come over this time. And then spirit will sneak some more healing in there. Bring up some more stuff. Show you some new things, new ways to look at what your mom used to say to you or do to you, your dad. New way to look at the abandonment, the unhealed trauma in them that caused them to pass it on. Again, that's what it meant by the Son pays for the sins of the Father. Is it's the unhealed trauma in the parent that gets passed on to the child, because it caused them to react to parenthood in an unhealed way and trauma response to it and passed it on. That's why it's important to go visit that flame. Heal that shit. Let spirit help you through it and heal it so that you don't pass it on. Even if your kids are grown and you heal it now, trust me when I say, I'm speaking from experience. If you're able to heal some of that shit, even when your kid's grown, them seeing you do that and watching what that looks like heals shit in them that you did during your unhealed shit. And it's fucking magical to watch and to be able to undo that stuff in your own kids and watch you stop the generational shit. Here we are at the end of this, and I still don't know what the fuck to call this thing. But let's see. Yeah. So as we're dealing with whatever self-medications people are using, we need to stop labeling them things like addicts and alcoholics and all of that. All that is a title for what medication they're using for the unhealed shit. And look at your own lives. Are you using something as a medication and not for its intended purpose? Right? Are you drinking wine it goes good with your delicious lasagna tonight, or pairs well with, or whatever, because you just want to chill and watch Golden Girls? Or are you doing it because you can't face the night without it? You can't sleep without it because your mind won't allow it. It's all about the motive. And just remember, it's not, I'm not saying don't, like I said, I'm not saying don't go to church or frolic with spirit within a doctrine. Just remember that the true healing happens at home, one on one. So no matter what you've named it, spirit, Jesus, God, the universe, I don't care what you've named it. I don't care what practice you do. None of it works without time spent with that flame, without time spent with spirit. Alone, you, spirit, and healing. And it's a constant thing. It's a garden. Thank you, spirit. Thank you, spirit. Our soul is like a garden. It can be beautiful and flourish. But the only way it's doing that is by tending to it. The healing is not found at the altar. That's the high. You're getting high, and that's great. Get as high as you want on spirit. I do it daily. The healing that makes it where you don't need the medication happens with time with the flame, with spirit alone. Just you. All the hats off. Husband hat off. Wife hat off. Mom hat off. Daughter, sister, friend. All the hats are off. Just you. Just you. In spirit. Yeah. That's amazing. Whew. Okay, I need some water. If you have any questions or comments, please hit me up. You can email me at kimberkeepingitreal, REEL, @gmail.com. Find me on Facebook, Kimber Stallings. Kimber Powell Stallings is my Facebook name. Well, it is Powell's not my name anymore, but yeah. If you have any ideas of subject matters you'd like for me to plug in with spirit on whatever subject and see what they have to say, let me know. I'd love to hear other people's interests or curiosities. I feel like I'm forgetting something. Oh, yes. If you would like a tarot reading, find me on Facebook. I've got my prices and everything set up on there. And as always, if you are not actively and intentionally trying to leave this world better than you found it, my friend, you have missed the point. You have missed the point. I hope y'all have a great rest of your day, and I look forward to hearing from you.